The day Earth joined the Galactic Confederation should have been humanity's proudest moment. After decades of reaching for the stars, humans had finally achieved faster-than-light travel in 2157. 6 months later, they were welcomed into the community of spacefaring species. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge of the Earth diplomatic vessel, Horizon, watching the massive Confederation station grow larger on the view screen. At 45, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had seen both war and peace on Earth, John had been chosen to lead humanity's first official mission. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Lisa Grant as she joined him at the viewport. The xenobiologist had spent her entire career preparing for alien contact, though nothing could truly prepare anyone for the real thing. "Just cautious," John replied. 27 alien species waiting to meet us. Some have been in space for thousands of years." Lisa smiled. Yet they all had to start somewhere too. Security Chief Alan Reeves checked his tablet with a frown. The former military man never truly relaxed, especially not now. "Station scans complete. Atmosphere matches our requirements. No detectable pathogens or toxins." "You ran that scan 3 times, Alan," John said. "And I'd run it 3 more if we had time. Better safe than sorry." The Horizon docked with a gentle bump. John straightened his uniform. "Remember the protocols. Full biological barriers until Dr. Grant confirms it's safe. No accepting food or drink. No touching without gloves." The welcoming committee waited beyond the airlock. 6 different species stood in a semicircle, each more alien than the last. A tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Trell of the Mesa. Welcome to the Confederation humans." John followed the carefully practiced greeting. "On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, we thank you for your welcome." The tour of the station was overwhelming. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds moved through massive halls, spoke in languages no human had ever heard, and traded goods from 100 planets. In the Confederation Council chamber, each species had its own section. The human delegation was led to the smallest area, clearly marked as newcomers. "The humans insist on wearing protective gear," whispered a reptilian being to its neighbor. "As if we carry diseases. I heard they spend 20% of their research on safety systems," another replied. "Imagine the progress they could make if they weren't so afraid." John pretended not to hear, but Lisa noticed his jaw tighten. The xenobiologist was fascinated by everything, taking samples with permission and documenting each new species they encountered. At the formal reception that evening, the humans removed their protective gear after Lisa's tests confirmed it was safe. They sampled alien foods carefully and made conversation as best they could. A large warrior-like alien approached John. Its skin was rough like bark, with ridges that probably served as natural armor. "I am General Krell-Tar. My species has led the Confederation's defense force for 3 centuries. "An honor to meet you," John said. "Your species interests me," the Krell-Tar continued. "You achieved space travel late, yet your ships have more safety systems than any I've seen. Your first communication with us included emergency protocols. Why are humans so fearful?" Before John could answer, another alien joined them. This one was small, with 6 eyes and delicate limbs. "Not fearful. Careful. There is a difference," it said in perfect English. "Professor Zim," the Krell-Tar acknowledged with obvious respect. "The eldest thinker honors us." "I've studied Earth transmissions," Zim said. "Humans evolved as prey animals before becoming predators. They understand danger because they have faced it. It makes them unique." 3 months later, the human delegation had established permanent quarters on the station. Lisa's lab had become a hub for cross-species medical exchange. John had earned respect as a straightforward diplomat. Alan had reluctantly reduced security, but still ran daily safety drills for the human staff. During a routine scan of stellar data, Lisa noticed something strange. "These readings from the galaxy edge don't match historical patterns," she told John, showing him the data. "Several stars are showing unusual energy fluctuations." John studied the information. "What does it mean?" "I don't know yet, but it's spreading in a pattern, like something is affecting these stars sequentially. John brought the information to the next Confederation Council meeting. The massive chamber with representatives from all 27 species fell silent as he presented the data. Based on these readings, we recommend increased monitoring of the sector. If this is some natural phenomenon, we should understand it. If not, he let the implication hang. General Kreltar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the chamber. The humans have been here barely 4 months and already they imagine dangers in normal stellar behavior. These patterns aren't in any of your historical records, Lisa pointed out. Because they are meaningless variations, said a gaseous being floating in a containment field. Stars fluctuate. This is known. But not in this pattern, John insisted. We simply suggest caution. Ah, yes, human caution, the Kreltar said. Tell me, Captain Miller, does your species ever act without first imagining all possible disasters? Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even some of the more friendly species seemed amused. Sometimes caution is wisdom, Professor Zim said quietly, but few seemed to hear the elder alien. The council voted to dismiss the human concerns. No monitoring would be increased. No warnings would be issued. As they left the chamber, Alan's expression was grim. So much for galactic cooperation. They've never faced extinction, Lisa said. Earth has come close too many times. It shapes how we think. John stopped walking, his face thoughtful. Then we'll do what humans have always done. We'll prepare anyway. That night, John sent a secure message to Earth. He explained the situation and the Council's response. He requested permission for a human-led mission to investigate the stellar anomalies. The reply came 12 hours later. Permission granted, use all necessary resources. If humans are the only ones who see danger, then humans will be the ones to face it. As the Horizon prepared to leave the station, Professor Zim visited John in his quarters. The others mock what they do not understand, the ancient alien said. In my 900 years, I have learned that those who prepare for trouble often avoid the worst of it. Let's hope we're wrong about this one, John replied, and if you are not. Zim's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. John's expression was determined. Then we'll do whatever it takes to protect everyone, even those who laughed at us. As the Horizon undocked and set course for the galaxy's edge, the rest of the Confederation continued its business, unaware that humanity's cowardice might soon be their only hope. 6 months had passed since the Confederation Council dismissed the human concerns. The Horizon had spent that time at the edge of known space, studying the strange stellar phenomena. Lisa Grant stared at her screen in the ship's lab, her face pale in the blue light. The data had become impossible to ignore. Whatever was happening to the stars wasn't natural. Captain, you need to see this, she called over the comm. John Miller arrived minutes later, with Alan Reeves following close behind. Both men had dark circles under their eyes from long shifts. I've confirmed it, Lisa said, pointing to the display. The pattern is artificial. Something is consuming these stars, draining their energy in a specific sequence. John leaned closer. Are you certain? The math doesn't lie. Lisa brought up a simulation. Watch this. If I project the pattern forward. The three of them watched as the simulation showed the phenomenon spreading, jumping from star to star in a straight line through the galaxy. It's heading directly toward populated systems, Alan said quietly. John's face hardened. How long? At current speed, 8 months until it reaches the first inhabited planet, Lisa replied. A mining colony on the edge of Kreltar space. John straightened up. We're returning to the Confederation station. The Council needs to see this. 3 weeks later, the Horizon docked at the massive station. John had sent their findings ahead, requesting an emergency council session. To his surprise, the request was granted. The council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all 27 species waited as John presented the evidence Lisa had compiled. This anomaly is moving with purpose, and John explained, showing the projected path. We've named it the Void because it leaves nothing behind. Stars simply go dark. And you believe this poses a threat? asked a MESA representative. We know it does, John replied firmly. The pattern shows it heading directly toward populated systems. We recommend immediate evacuation of the planets in its path. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some sounded concerned, but most were skeptical. General Kreltar stood, his massive form casting a shadow. Once again, the humans come to us with tales of doom. 6 months ago, it was unusual readings. Now it's a star-eating monster. The evidence is clear, Lisa said, stepping forward. We've tracked the pattern across 17 star systems now. Stars die. It is the way of the universe, said another council member. Not like this, John insisted. Not in a straight line, heading directly toward populated worlds. The debate lasted hours. The human delegation presented their data, answered questions, and proposed an evacuation plan. But as the session continued, it became clear that most species still saw this as human paranoia. The costs of evacuating entire worlds based on a theory would be enormous, said a representative of the Commerce Guild. The cost of doing nothing could be entire civilizations, John countered. In the end, the council voted. The result was 26-1 against the human proposal. No evacuations would be ordered, no emergency warnings would be issued. As the humans left the chamber, they were stopped by Professor Zim. The ancient alien looked troubled. I voted with you, Zim said quietly. I see the pattern too. Thank you, John replied. But without council support, what can we do? What will you do? Zim asked. Your kind always seems to find a way, even when standing alone. Later that day, the human delegation gathered in their private quarters. John had called in all Earth representatives from across the station. The council won't listen, he told them. But we can't just wait for disaster. Commander Susan Hayes, the leader of Earth's small fleet in Confederation space, spoke up. We only have 12 ships here, not enough to evacuate planets. But enough to make a difference, John replied. Earth has authorized us to take independent action. Alan Reeves pulled up a star map. If we position our ships near the systems in the Void's path, we can at least help with evacuations when the time comes. The Council will see that as acting against their decision, Susan warned. We'll be discreet, John said. Route changes. Maintenance stops, training exercises. Nothing suspicious. Engineer Paul Davis, a quiet man who rarely spoke up in meetings, raised his hand. I have an idea that might help. Earth's early warning system for natural disasters. Everyone turned to look at him. We could adapt the technology, Paul explained. Build automated beacons that monitor the void and broadcast warnings. They could be deployed near at-risk systems, ready to activate when needed. That would give people time to evacuate even without official orders, Lisa agreed. We'd need resources, Paul said. Materials, manufacturing capacity. John nodded. We'll find a way. Earth is sending supplies officially labeled as research materials. What about the other species? Asked a young diplomat. Surely some of them must have doubts about the Council's decision. I've been approached by several scientists from other worlds, Lisa admitted. They've reviewed our data privately. Some agree with our conclusions, but can't speak openly. Then we'll work with whoever will help, John decided. Quietly, without challenging the Council directly. Susan looked troubled. We risk our standing in the Confederation, maybe even expulsion. We risk far more by doing nothing, John replied. For the next 2 months, the humans worked in secret. Earth ships changed their patrol routes to position themselves near vulnerable systems. Paul and his engineering team built and deployed early warning beacons, disguising them as standard communication relays. Lisa worked with a growing network of alien scientists who shared her concerns. Together they gathered more data on the void, trying to understand what it was and how it might be stopped. John maintained the diplomatic facade, attending council meetings and social functions as if nothing had changed. But in private, he coordinated what they had come to call the Starshield Initiative, Earth's plan to save as many lives as possible when the void eventually arrived. Their activities didn't go completely unnoticed. Questions were asked about the repositioning of Earth ships, Rumors spread about the human scientists and their research. During a formal dinner, General Kreltar cornered John near the refreshment table. "Your ships are far from their assigned sectors, Captain Miller," the general said. "One might think you are preparing for something." "Standard training exercises," John replied smoothly. "Earth believes in being prepared for all situations." "Ah yes, human caution," Kreltar said with a laugh. "Tell me, do your people ever simply enjoy the present moment? Or are you always bracing for imaginary catastrophes?" "We find joy where we can," John said. "But we sleep better knowing we've done all we can to protect ourselves and others." The general's expression hardened. "Be careful, human. The Confederation has rules about unauthorized activities, even for well-meaning cowards." As Kreltar walked away, Professor Zim appeared at John's side. "He fears what he doesn't understand," the elder alien said, "but soon he may understand all too well." 3 days later, Lisa burst into John's office, her tablet clutched in her hand. "The void has accelerated," she said, her voice tight with worry. "It just consumed an entire star system in half the expected time." John took the tablet, staring at the new data. "How long until it reaches inhabited space?" 2 months. Maybe less." Lisa's eyes were wide. "And there's something else. We've detected energy patterns within the void. Complex signals. What does that mean?" "It means the void isn't a natural phenomenon." Lisa took a deep breath. "It's artificial. Someone or something created it." John closed his eyes for a moment, absorbing this new information. When he opened them again, his resolve was clear. "Contact all Earth ships. Tell them to speed up preparations and send a message to Earth. We need everything they can send us as fast as possible." "What about the Council?" Lisa asked. "They'll know soon enough," John replied grimly. "Reality has a way of making itself known even to those who refuse to see it." As the days passed, the humans worked with quiet determination. Their reputation for caution and fear had spread throughout the Confederation. Behind their backs, other species mocked the cowardly humans who jumped at shadows and prepared for disasters that would never come. In the main dining hall of the station, John Miller sat alone, reviewing reports on his tablet. Earth had sent 3 more ships loaded with supplies, officially labeled as cultural exchange materials. In reality, they carried emergency rations, portable shelters, and medical supplies. A shadow fell across his table. John looked up to see General Kreltar standing there, flanked by 2 of his officers. "Still planning for the end of the world, Captain Miller?" the general asked with a rumbling laugh. John managed a polite smile. "Just reviewing some reports, General." "Reports of your imaginary threat, no doubt." Kreltar leaned closer. "My scouts have noticed unusual activity around human ships. Cargo, transfers in remote locations, unauthorized communications with border worlds. I'm sure there's a simple explanation," John replied evenly. "Indeed. The explanation is that humans cannot accept the Council's decision." The general straightened up. "Consider this a friendly warning. The Confederation has survived for thousands of years without human interference." After they left, John contacted Susan Hayes on a secure channel. "We need to be more careful," he told her. "The Kreltar are watching our movements." Susan's face on the screen looked tired but determined. "We've positioned ships near all major systems in the Void's path. Paul's warning beacons are in place, but we'll need to be more discreet with the final preparations." "How's the evacuation plan coming along?" "We've identified staging areas on each planet," Susan replied. "Earth colonies are prepared to receive refugees. The challenge will be moving people quickly when the time comes." "Without causing panic or alerting the Council," John added. "Exactly. But we'll be ready." In her lab, Lisa Grant worked with a small team of alien scientists who had come to trust her data. They had formed a secret research group, sharing information outside official channels. "The energy pattern within the void is becoming clearer," said Kell, a scientist from a species known for their advanced mathematics. "It's definitely artificial but ancient. The technology is like nothing in our records." "Could it be a weapon?" asked Mira, a physicist whose delicate blue skin glowed faintly in the lab's light. "Possibly," Lisa replied. Or it could be a tool that was abandoned and has malfunctioned. Either way, it's heading directly toward populated space. And still the council refuses to act, Kell said bitterly. Even with our latest findings. Lisa placed a hand on his shoulder. That's why we keep working. When the void arrives, people will need all the information we can give them. In the engineering section, Paul Davis led a team working round the clock. They had converted an unused storage bay into a makeshift workshop, away from curious eyes. The emergency beacon network is complete, he told John during their daily briefing. Each device is linked to our monitoring stations. When the void reaches a certain proximity to a populated system, the beacons will activate automatically. And the evacuation protocols. Paul brought up a holographic display showing transport routes. We've programmed optimal evacuation paths for each planet and station in the void's projected path. The beacons will broadcast these instructions in all Confederation languages. Good work, John said, studying the display. What about the research into stopping the void? Paul's expression grew troubled. That's more challenging. We don't fully understand what it is yet. Lisa's team has theories, but nothing solid enough to build a defense. John nodded. Keep working on it. Every day gives us more data. As weeks passed, tensions grew. The repositioning of Earthships had not gone unnoticed, and rumors spread throughout the Confederation. Some species began to ask questions about the void, prompted by the humans' obvious preparations. In a private meeting with Professor Zim, John expressed his frustration. The evidence keeps mounting, but the Council refuses to even consider evacuation plans, he said. The ancient alien's 6 eyes blinked thoughtfully. Many of these species have never faced extinction. They cannot imagine their civilizations ending. Earth has come close several times, John replied. We understand how fragile life can be. Perhaps that is humanity's gift to the Confederation, Zim said. Not your technology or your culture, but your perspective. You see dangers others ignore because you have learned from survival. A gift they don't want, John said with a bitter smile. Not yet, Zim agreed. But soon, perhaps. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. One of Lisa's alien colleagues discovered a reference to something similar to the void in ancient texts from his homeworld. They called it the Devourer of Stars, he explained, showing Lisa the translated text. It appeared briefly 10,000 years ago, then vanished from our records. Does it say where it came from? Lisa asked eagerly. Only legends. It speaks of those who came before, a species that vanished long ago. The text suggests they created the Devourer as a tool, but lost control of it. Lisa immediately shared this information with John and the rest of the human team. This matches our energy readings, she explained. The void isn't a natural phenomenon. It's a machine created by an ancient species that disappeared thousands of years ago. A machine that eats stars, Alan Reeves said grimly. Wonderful. If it's a machine, it can be broken, Paul Davis pointed out. Every system has weaknesses. Focus on finding those weaknesses, John ordered. We have less than 3 weeks before it reaches the first inhabited system. 2 days later, an alarm sounded throughout the station. The Confederation Council called an emergency session. John and Lisa hurried to the chamber, finding it in chaos. On the main display, a star was going dark. Not in some distant, uninhabited region, but at the edge of Krell-Tar space, the mining colony Lisa had identified months ago. The void has arrived, John whispered. General Krell-Tar stood at the center of the chamber, his voice booming over the commotion. This phenomenon has destroyed one of our mining outposts. 3,000 Krell-Tar workers are missing. The council leader, an elderly Misa, called for order. We must understand what we are facing before we act. The humans knew, someone shouted. From the floor. They've been preparing for months. All eyes turned to John. The council leader gestured for him to speak. John stepped forward, his face calm despite the tension. Yes, we knew. We brought our concerns to this council 6 months ago, and again 3 months ago. Both times we were dismissed. You had no proof then, the Kreltar general growled. We had the same data you refused to examine, John replied sharply. And while this council debated and delayed, humans acted. We have ships positioned near the affected systems. We have evacuation plans ready. We have emergency supplies waiting. Silence fell over the chamber. You defied council orders, the leader said finally. We prepared to save lives, John corrected. And now we're ready to help. Will you accept that help, or will pride cost more lives? Before anyone could answer, Lisa's tablet chimed with an urgent alert. She checked it, then looked up with wide eyes. The Void has changed course, she announced. It's accelerating toward the Misa homeworld system. Panic erupted in the chamber. The Misa representatives huddled together, their forearms gesturing frantically. John raised his voice above the noise. Earth vessels are already in position. Our emergency beacons will activate, providing evacuation instructions. But we need Confederation ships to help transport people. The council leader looked from John to the frightened faces of her own species. Finally, she nodded. We accept your help, she said. What must we do? Outside the chamber, as plans were being made, Alan approached John. The Starshield initiative is active, he said quietly. All Earth ships report ready. Emergency protocols are broadcasting across affected systems. John nodded, watching as Confederation officials rushed to organize their response. After all this time mocking us for being careful, for being prepared, at least they're listening. Now, Alan said. Let's hope it's not too late, John replied, looking at the display where the Void continued its relentless advance. The real test is just beginning. Chaos erupted throughout the Confederation as news of the Void spread. The Misa homeworld began emergency evacuations, with millions of people trying to leave at once. Ships of all sizes filled the skies, many overloaded and dangerous. On the bridge of the horizon, John Miller coordinated the human response. Earth vessels already positioned near vulnerable systems immediately began rescue operations. The automated beacons are working, reported Alan Reeves, watching data flow across his screen. People are following the evacuation routes we mapped. The Misa government is cooperating now, Susan Hayes added from her own ship, the Defender. They've given us access to their emergency channels, but not everyone was so helpful. The Confederation Council had dissolved into political finger-pointing. Some species blamed the Misa for not taking precautions. Others accused the humans of causing the crisis somehow. General Kreltar had taken his battle fleet to protect Kreltar, worlds ignoring pleas to help with evacuations elsewhere. Typical, John muttered when he heard this news. At the first sign of real danger, it's every species for themselves. Lisa Grant entered the bridge, looking exhausted but excited. I think we've made a breakthrough, she said. My team has been analyzing the Void's energy patterns. It's definitely a machine, and it's ancient, maybe 1,000,000 years old. Can we stop it? John asked. Maybe. Lisa brought up a display showing complex energy readings. The Void consumes stars by converting their matter to energy. But the conversion isn't perfect. There's a pattern to the waste energy it releases. What does that tell us? That it has a cycle, Lisa explained, and potentially a weakness. If we could disrupt that cycle at exactly the right moment, we might destabilize the entire system. How would we do that? Lisa hesitated. That's the hard part. We'd need to get close enough to broadcast a specific frequency directly into the Void. Much closer than is safe. John's expression grew thoughtful. Get with Paul. See if his team can design something that could work. In the meantime, we focus on saving lives. The next 12 days were a blur of activity. The Void consumed the outer planets of the Misa system one by one, leaving nothing but empty space behind. Millions fled, many in ships never designed for long journeys. Earth colonies opened their doors to refugees, having prepared supplies and housing months earlier as part of the Starshield initiative. Other worlds, seeing the human response, began to follow their example. On a special emergency channel, John addressed all Earth vessels. This is what we prepared for. This is why we were cautious. Now we show the galaxy what humanity does in a crisis. We save everyone we can, regardless of species, regardless of past conflicts. The Horizon had become the unofficial command center for rescue operations. Representatives from a dozen species now worked alongside the human crew, coordinating evacuations and tracking the Void's progress. Professor Zim had joined them, offering insights from his 9 centuries of life. The Confederation has never faced a threat like this, the ancient alien told John. Many of our worlds have known only peace and prosperity for thousands of years. Earth has had a rougher history, John replied. Wars, plagues, climate disasters. We learned to prepare for the worst. A painful education, Zim observed, but valuable now. In the makeshift laboratory, Lisa worked with Paul and scientists from 5 different species. They had taken over an entire deck of the Horizon, filling it with equipment and holographic displays. The frequency needs to be incredibly precise, Lisa explained to John during his daily visit. We're talking about disrupting a million-year-old system that was built by a species far more advanced than any of us. But it's possible? John asked. Paul nodded. We've designed a transmitter that could generate the right frequency, but it would need to be positioned inside the Void's outer boundary. A suicide mission, John said quietly. Not necessarily, Paul replied. We could use automated probes. Lisa shook her head. The transmitter is too large for a probe. It would need to be mounted on a ship, and someone would need to manually adjust the frequency as conditions change. John stared at the plans on the screen. Keep working on it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. As the Void approached the Misa homeworld itself, evacuation efforts reached a fever pitch. Every available ship was pressed into service. The Horizon coordinated from high orbit, directing traffic and assigning priorities. On the bridge, John received a priority message from Earth. Captain Miller, this is Admiral Kelly. The President has authorized Operation Last Stand. We're sending every ship we can spare. They should reach you in 3 days. Thank you, Admiral, John replied. But the Void will reach the Misa homeworld before then. I understand. Your orders are to do whatever it takes to save as many lives as possible. Earth stands with you. After the transmission ended, John called his senior staff together. Earth is sending reinforcements, but they won't arrive in time for the Misa. We need to maximize our current resources. Susan Hayes, who had docked her ship with the Horizon for the meeting, looked grim. We've evacuated about 60% of the population. The rest are either in remote areas or refusing to leave. Keep trying, John ordered. Use the emergency beacons to broadcast in all languages. Make it clear what's coming. As they dispersed, Lisa pulled John aside. We've finished the transmitter design, she said. And we've run simulations. There's a 70% chance it would work. Those are good odds, John replied. For disrupting the Void, yes. Lisa hesitated. But not for the ship carrying the transmitter. The energy released would almost certainly destroy anything nearby. John was silent for a moment. How soon can you build it? Paul already started. It should be ready in 36 hours. Good. Keep me updated. The Void reached the Misa homeworld 2 days later. By then, almost 80% of the population had been evacuated, thanks to the combined efforts of Earth ships and those Confederation vessels that had joined the rescue operation. From the Horizon, John watched on the view screen as the beautiful blue planet was engulfed by darkness. The Void moved slowly like a wave of empty space, consuming everything it touched. All ships fall back to safe distance, he ordered over the emergency channel. I repeat, all ships maintain safety perimeter. As the planet disappeared, leaving only stars where it had been, a stunned silence fell over the bridge. For many of the alien crew members, this was the first time they had seen their own mortality reflected in the fate of an entire world. Professor Zim stood beside John, his ancient eyes reflecting the stars on the view screen. In 900 years, I never imagined I would witness such a thing. No one should have to, John replied quietly. The professor turned to him. Yet your species prepared for it, even when no one believed you. That's what humans do, John said. We imagine the worst so we can be ready for it. Not cowardice after all, Zim mused, but wisdom. An alert sounded from the communication station. Captain, called the officer on duty. We're receiving a transmission from General Kreltar's flagship. John raised an eyebrow in surprise. Put it through. The general's face appeared on screen, his expression uncharacteristically subdued. Captain Miller, the Kreltar High Command has assessed the situation. The Void will reach our homeworld in approximately 12 days. I'm aware, John replied. We request your assistance with evacuation planning. The words clearly cost the proud warrior greatly. Of course, General, I'll send you our protocols immediately, and we have ships already positioned near your home system. After the transmission ended, Susan gave a low whistle. Never thought I'd see a Kreltar ask for help. Fear changes perspectives, John said. But we don't have time for satisfaction. The Void isn't stopping. Later that day, Paul Davis reported that the transmitter was complete. We've mounted it on a small transport ship, he explained. All systems are functional. And the disruption sequence? John asked. Programmed and ready, Lisa replied. But someone will need to pilot the ship. The frequency adjustments can't be automated. John nodded. I understand. He studied the transmitter, a complex device that now represented their only hope of stopping the Void. How soon can it be deployed? Immediately, Paul said. But Captain, this is a one-way mission. I know. John's face was calm. Prepare a full briefing for tomorrow morning. I want everyone to understand exactly how this works. That night, John recorded a message to be sent to Earth. He spoke of, morning came too quickly. John Miller dressed in his uniform with careful precision, each button and medal a reminder of his duty. He had slept little, but his mind was clear. Today would decide the fate of countless civilizations. When he reached the bridge, he found his senior staff waiting. Their faces told him they knew. Captain, Alan Reeves stepped forward. We need to discuss the transmitter mission. There's nothing to discuss, John replied. I've made my decision. Then we've made ours, Susan Hayes said firmly. We've taken a vote. None of us will help prepare the transport unless you agree to consider alternatives. John looked around at their determined faces. This isn't a democracy. No, it's a family, Lisa Grant said quietly. And we're not letting you sacrifice yourself without at least exploring other options. John sighed. We have 6 hours before the transport needs to launch to intercept the Void at the optimal position. What alternatives do you suggest? Paul Davis brought up a holographic display. We've been working through the night. The transmitter requires manual adjustments, but those could potentially be made remotely if we modify the control systems. The signal delay would make it nearly impossible to get the timing right, John pointed out. True, Paul agreed. But what if we use multiple transmitters, smaller versions, mounted on probe ships? Each one would be less powerful, but together they could create the same effect. John studied the design. How long would it take to build these? We've already started, Paul admitted with a slight smile. The first 3 are nearly complete. John shook his head, but there was grudging admiration in his expression. You risked insubordination to go behind my back. We learned from the best, Captain, Susan said. Sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Engineers worked frantically to complete the modified probes. Lisa and her team refined the disruption sequence to work with multiple smaller transmitters. It's still a long shot, Lisa warned as they reviewed the final simulations. The timing has to be perfect, and we'll need to get much closer than we originally planned. How close? John asked. Close enough that the ship will likely suffer severe damage from the energy discharge, maybe too close to escape the blast radius entirely. John nodded. Then I'm still flying the mission, but instead of a one-way trip, we aim for a fighting chance. This time, no one argued. The Horizon moved into position at the edge of the safe zone. The modified transport ship docked to its hull. The probe ships, each carrying a smaller version of the transmitter, were loaded into launch tubes. On the bridge, John addressed his crew and the representatives from a dozen alien species who had joined them. Today, we face a threat unlike any our worlds have encountered before. The void has already claimed one homeworld, and it won't stop unless we stop it. He looked around at their faces. For months, humans were mocked for being too cautious, too afraid. But that caution saved millions of lives. That preparation gave us a chance. General Kreltar, who had arrived an hour earlier with 2 of his battleships, stepped forward. The Kreltar acknowledge our error in judgment. Human caution was wisdom, not weakness. Today, we need both caution and courage, John continued. The plan is simple, but dangerous. The probes will deploy first, moving into position around the void. Then the transport ship will approach from the third vector, carrying the main transmitter. When all units are in position, we'll activate the disruption sequence simultaneously, and, if it fails, someone asked. Then we evacuate as many people as possible from the remaining systems and search for another solution, John replied. We keep fighting until we have nothing left. He turned to Susan Hayes. Commander, you have the horizon. Keep her at a safe distance, but be ready to extract the transport if possible. Understood, Captain, Susan replied. Good hunting. As John prepared to leave the bridge, he was surprised to see Professor Zim approach. I wish to join you on the transport, the ancient alien said. It's too dangerous, John protested. The chances of survival are... I am aware, Zim interrupted gently. But I have studied the void more thoroughly than anyone. My knowledge may be valuable if adjustments are needed during the approach. John hesitated, then nodded. Very well, Professor, but I warn you this won't be a comfortable ride. Few important journeys are, Zim replied. The transport ship was small, designed for speed and maneuverability rather than comfort. As they undocked from the horizon, John felt the familiar tension of a mission beginning. Probes are away, reported Alan Reeves, who had insisted on joining as tactical officer. All systems nominal. Setting course for insertion point, John said, guiding the ship toward the vast darkness ahead. The void hung in space like a hole in reality, stars disappearing at its edges. As they approached, John felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. Energy readings are off the scale, Lisa reported from the science station. The void is consuming a small star right now. Perfect timing. Probes have reached their positions, Alan announced. Ready for synchronization. John eased the transport closer, fighting the instinct to turn back. Final approach. Everyone, secure yourselves. The ship began to shudder as they crossed an invisible boundary. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Hull temperature rising, Alan reported. Shields at 82% and dropping. Just a little closer, Lisa urged, her eyes fixed on her instruments. The transmitter needs to be within the outer boundary of the void's energy field. Professor Zim moved beside John, his 6 eyes scanning the readouts. The conversion cycle is reaching its peak. We must time the disruption precisely. The vibrations grew stronger. A circuit blew somewhere in the rear of the ship, sending sparks cascading. Shields at 61%, Alan warned. We're taking damage. Almost there, John said through gritted teeth, fighting to hold the ship steady. Position achieved, Lisa called out. Transmitter is ready. Syncing with probe transmitters, Alan added. Synchronized. Now, Captain, Professor Zim's voice was urgent. John hit the activation control. The ship lurched as the transmitter powered up, drawing energy from their engines. A high-pitched whine filled the cabin. Transmitting disruption frequency, Lisa reported. All probes reporting successful transmission. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the darkness before them began to ripple, like the surface of a pond disturbed by a stone. It's working, Professor Zim whispered. The conversion cycle is destabilizing. The ripples grew larger, waves of darkness rolling outward. The ship shook violently. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 3, Alan shouted over the noise. Shields failing. Engines to full reverse, John ordered, but the controls were sluggish. The void is collapsing, Lisa called out. Energy readings going critical. Brace. For impact, John yelled. A wave of pure energy washed over the ship, blinding everyone on board. Systems failed in cascades of sparks and smoke. John felt the control console grow hot under his hands, but he kept fighting to maintain their course, away from the collapsing void. Then darkness. John awoke to the sound of emergency sirens and the red glow of backup lighting. His head throbbed and he tasted blood. Status report, he croaked, struggling to focus. Barely alive, came Alan's voice from nearby. Main power gone, life support on backup. But Captain, look. John followed Alan's pointing finger to the view screen, which was cracked but still functioning. Where the void had been, there was now only empty space with stars visible beyond. It worked, Lisa said weakly from her station. The void has been destroyed. Professor Zim, John called. Here, Captain, the ancient alien replied. He was hunched over a damaged console, but all 6 eyes were open. It seems your human caution has saved us all. Can we move? John asked. Alan checked the damaged systems. Engines are offline, communications too. We're adrift. Then we wait, John said. The horizon will come looking for us. It took 3 hours for the rescue ships to find them. The transport's hull was blackened and twisted, with whole sections exposed to space. Only the emergency force fields had kept them alive. As they were brought aboard the Horizon, crews applauded. Susan Hayes was waiting in the docking bay, her face showing relief and pride. The void is completely gone, she reported. Confirmed by ships across 5 sectors. Whatever you did out there, it worked. It was a team effort, John replied, helping. Professor Zim through the airlock. How are the probes? Lost with the void, Susan said. But they did their job. In the days that followed, news spread throughout the Confederation. The humans had not only warned of the danger and saved millions of lives through their preparations, but they had also destroyed the void itself. A week later, the Confederation Council convened for a special session. The chamber was filled beyond capacity, with representatives from all species present. John and his senior staff were called to the center of the floor. The council leader, a new Mesa representative chosen after the loss of their homeworld, addressed them. Captain John Miller and the crew of the Earth vessel, Horizon, we have called you here to formally acknowledge our error in judgment. When you warned us of the void, we dismissed your concerns as cowardice. When you prepared anyway, we mocked your caution. The chamber was silent, every alien attention fixed on the humans.